Well, now we get to have a message. Let's see what that's going to be. So it is September, and in September, I really like to go back to basics. It's a traditional time to go back to school. I like to go back to the basics of the science of mind teachings. And Ernest Holmes founded our science of mind, or religious science, early in the 1900s. But his basic principles that he embraced really came from much earlier than that, eons really before that. And so before I get into it too much further, I wanted to quote to you what you will find on your program each Sunday. And I just wanted to share with you from what Ernest's standpoint was coming from, what he gives the succinct explanation of our teachings. And he said, the philosophy of religious science is nothing new to the world. It is rather a synthesis of the greatest concepts that have ever come to the mind of humankind. The laws of Moses, the love of Christ, the ethics of the Buddha, the morals of Confucius, and the deep spiritual realization of the Hindus all find an exalted place in the philosophy of religious science. And religious science is a branch or an arm or an element of a broader movement that we call New Thought. And as I wrote in the Thought for the Week, the New Thought movement, begun in the United States in the late 1800s, is to prove the teachings of Jesus relative to the spiritual universe and man's relationship to it. Metaphysics, in terms of New Thought, means practical idealism. Christian metaphysics means the philosophy of the New Testament practiced as a science. So you know where that quote came from, or how I came up with that description, is as I was looking on my bookshelf and I was looking under the H's, because I have this wonderful angel that helped me organize all my books in alphabetical order. And H is for Holmes, obviously, and I found all these different books that Holmes has written that I haven't yet read. So this month, that's going to be my guide to be able to dig into those. But this one in particular was one that was edited by Holmes. And I honestly don't remember the name of it at the moment, but it has all these different little writings in it from all sorts of various authors. And in the front of it was this description of what New Thought was, and it was basically compiled from the INTA, International New Thought movement, is over 100 years old now, and that was what their description of New Thought was. So I thought, well, I think that's pretty correct. So how do we look at these teachings in the New Testament, teachings of Jesus, and how do we practice them as a science? Because you understand Jesus was the way shower, the example, and he came to fulfill the law that was prepared in the Old Testament, so he became in the New Testament to fill the law, and he taught spiritual laws. He taught principle. And that's what we are looking at in our teaching, is how can we take the laws and the principles that he taught and apply them to our lives today. And so to me, when I look back at the primary, or one of the primary teachings, principles that Jesus gave us was that God is love. We utilize that same interchanging of God and love. He gave us the second commandment. The first commandment was given, love the Lord your God with all your heart and mind and soul and strength. And Jesus added, and unto that, love your neighbor as yourself. So that's a very important message he's telling us, is that there is literally love, period. Bottom line, one source, one energy, and that is what we are. So we accept our knowing that we are love. If we don't accept what we are, we can't love another. We have to be able to accept that we are that love. And with that seeing, with those eyes of seeing with love from ourselves, we will see that love in others. Jesus also taught that as you give, you receive. So there again, in our teaching, we are time and time again brought back to this awareness that we want to know there is one principle, one power. It is God, it is love, it is good, it is source, it is energy, it is creative. And where is it? Everywhere present. And where is the kingdom of heaven that Jesus told us about? Within. Within. And so we are told to seek first the kingdom within. And so what this universal principle is telling us is that we don't have to go anywhere. We got it all within us, but we need to open up to it. We need to invite it. Come, my beloved. Make a home in my heart. Invite that love to dwell in you, to fill you, so that it permeates everything, so that it chases away, if every cell, if you can visualize any sort of worry, any sort of doubt, any sort of fear as a darkness, as a shadow, let that love of light shoo it away. Fill it. So we know, it was as we equate that knowing that there is only love and only light, that is a one power. Granted, we in our experience of living in a human existence sometimes think that there is evil, that there are wrong things that happen. And yet, if we go back to knowing that there is only love, there is only joy, there is only peace, there's only this presence and power, then that's what I am unifying with. So what I'm teaching you now, if you're a student of Science of Mind at all, you're hearing this. It's somewhat familiar. We have a prayer formula that we teach, and we call it treatment. And it has 5 steps, typically. There's some of them that are written that have a little more than that. Some you'll see that are 7 and more than that. But I kind of focus on the 5. It keeps it simple. And so our first step in treatment is to know that there is that one power, one presence. That is all there is. We anchor into it, knowing that fully. And we know that the second step of our treatment is to unify with it. To know that that's what I am. I can be nothing else. And when that little voice, which it does, comes up and says to you, really, I can prove to you otherwise. Because I can give you examples of all this stuff that you've done. That's nothing like love. And we say, thank you for sharing. And we go back to the knowing that those little voices, those shadows of doubt that creep in, are just an illusion. They are something that has been placed in us, in our psyche, maybe from, who knows, past eons ago, or from our bringing up, or, from something we just heard and believed. And we go back and back and back to knowing that there is just love and just God, and I am unified with that. And that is the teachings of Jesus. Jesus had it nailed. To know that there is only God. And he said that if you are to worship God, God is spirit. And so you must worship God in spirit and in truth. So that means, again, we go back to our quiet time. We go back to this time of centering, of turning off all of the things on the outside world, and we open ourselves up to our hearts. We open ourselves up to what is it that this divine being in me wants to express. And that ends up being our third step of treatment, which is realization. Recognition, meaning there's only one God, is the first step. Unification is the second step. I'm one with it. Third is I'm ready to speak my word. I'm ready to know that this power that I am is ready to be experienced in the world as something. And Jesus gave us that example. Many times we think about the fact that he did all these miracles, right? But how did he do them? What did he do? You know, when he spoke his word in a definite manner. When the disciples woke him up, there was a big storm on ship, and the disciples were all scared, you know, what's going to happen to us? And of course, Jesus was sleeping like a baby through it. And they woke him up and said, oh my gosh, you know what happened? We're dying here. What's going on? And what did he do? Spoke his word, peace. Be still. He knew what he wanted, and he knew his authority to be able to command that to happen. That's the type of energy, the type of attitude that we are to have when we give our treatment work in this religious science movement, is that we are to know our unification with God, love, joy, and that we are to speak our word as to what we want. And if something else shows up, what do? We speak our word again. We treat again. Now, granted, there's little nuances in this, so you have to be aware that if something shows up that you had not called forth consciously, knowingly, be aware that you are to, as Jesus said, judge it with right judgment. What is this experience giving me? What is this experience showing me? It's coming into my experience for something. Spirit, God, love is moving me into this experience for something. Ask, what is the gift here? I love Michael Beckwith when he says if something is going on in your life that you're questioning. Oh my God, what is this? You know, I thought I figured this out before. It's happening again. What's going on? And he said, go into your inner self, your inner core, go into that silence and ask, what is the quality that I am to birth during this situation that I have not yet been able to have myself experience? What would be the quality? I've shared with you the last couple of weeks, you know, the event of my daughter's getting of a new car. And all the ways that we got to do that, and it's driven here today. It's out in the parking lot, so if you guys want to go check it out. And then it worked beautifully. It's like zip, zip, zip. And then, of course, trying to get it registered, that ran into some little hiccups. And I'm like, really, God? What's going on here? And my friend told me that sometimes it's good to confer where two or more gathered. You share with someone of like-mindedness that's on a high spiritual plane as you are, and said, what do you think's going on here? And she said, maybe you're to learn patience. Yes. Maybe that's the quality that I was needing to experience, was patience. And so we go in, whatever this experience is that we're having in our life, this is being a challenge, that we go in and ask, what is the quality that I am to birth, that I have not yet been able to master in this life, that this experience is giving me? And you will hear it. You may not want to accept it. You may want to kick your feet and scream and dig your heels in and say, no, I don't care, I don't want to do that. And you can. You can resist. But what happens when you resist? What you resist persists. And so we allow ourselves to be in this flow of the divine. We allow to whatever comes up to look at it honestly, evaluate it, Know that it is here for my good. And so it's interesting. So the first three steps, again, I'm referring to are recognition, recognition there's only God, love, joy, right? Second one, unification. I am one with it. If there's all there is, then that's me. I'm not excluded. I'm not separate, much as my ego might want to tell me. Third, I am using this individual power that I am to speak my word as to what it is that I want in my life. What is it that I want to bring forth? And know that you might be on the cusp of something greater than what your finite mind is able to envision at this moment. So we add this or something better. You know, we put out all the details of what we want in the car, this or something better. Now, our fourth step of treatment is thanksgiving. We're grateful. And I find it interesting because in more than one example in Jesus' teachings, he utilized that step first when he commanded Lazarus to come out of the cave or the tomb. The first thing he said was, "Thank you, God, that you hear me and that you always hear me." And then he commanded Lazarus to come forth. So to be aware that might be what you're drawn to do, is to just literally give thanks. It's already done. That's really one of the primary things in our teaching, is that it is all done now. There's no waiting. It's happening. It's interesting because I work in the insurance industry, and you call people and you're saying, I sent this change form in, talking to an underwriter, and when do you think it's going to get done? And they pull up their computer and they look at it. Oh, it's in the queue. Have you ever heard that? It's in the queue. So I don't even know really what that means. But I always know that when they say it's in the queue, that it's okay, it's on the list, or it's somewhere, there to be done at just the right and perfect time. And, of course, I've learned that squeaking wheel gets the grease, so sometimes you have to remind them more than once. But that it's in the queue. And so when you are treating and when you're praying and when you're asking for what it is you want to have experienced in your life, you give thanks. It's done in mind, in spirit, in source. It's in the queue. And so the last step we do then is that we're releasing it. We're saying, yay, it's done. All done in perfect order, perfect timing. And sometimes we don't let it go right away with joy and eagerness. And the little doubt comes up again. It'll happen. But. And then we go back to treating. We go back to knowing there's only God, there's only love, there's only joy. One of the nuances to keep in mind is to whatever it is that you would like to have experienced in your life is to hook a quality of spirit to it. Like talking about the car. Well, what quality of spirit might be related to having a car, a vehicle? Freedom. Being able to be free. That will be the quality of God that you're looking for. So help yourself by going deeper into why is it that I really want this? Because we're all spiritual beings, that spiritual essence and energy is what wants to be expressed, through our all the things we do in life. And so bring that forth. What is the quality that I'm really looking to experience here? And then you see you're open to allowing Spirit to bring it maybe in a different avenue, in a different way than what you might have expected. There's a way that sometimes we can pray, we can treat, that Ernest tells us to be aware of. And that's called outlining. And an outline, his definition is, it is not our business to outline or to say how our good shall come. Our work is one which believes that there is but one mind, and that this mind knows exactly what to do and how to do it, and that it does it at the bidding of our spoken word, that it opens the best channels using the right agencies, human and divine, for the accomplishment of our desire. We should speak our word and believe that after it is spoken, it gathers unto itself whatever is necessary for its fulfillment. The law does the rest. Do you feel that? Do you see that? That there's so many agencies going on, working on our behalf for us. We don't have to outline. We don't have to say specifically, yes, I want to meet a man that is exactly like this. He has this hairline. He is this exact age. He comes from this background. And by the time, making lists is one thing. The qualities of that person are important. But the exact, identical, specific things about them, you're outlining. You're limiting spirit. You're limiting source. Give source the openness to have a quality about that person. I don't know about you, but I have always, throughout my life, enjoyed surprises. I just am. I just enjoy being surprised. And I'll never forget, I didn't have this in my notes, in any event, I was getting married, okay? So typically, you have a bridal shower. You know, you just expect one of your friends is going to give you a bridal shower. And I didn't hear anything, you know, and so I'm beginning to wonder what, is going on. I guess it's not happening. And I went over to my future sister-in-law's home. And she had a calendar up on the wall, and I saw Gay's bridal shower written on the calendar. It went into my psyche, but not into my conscious awareness, because I so wanted not to mess up the surprise. I saw it and went, oh, okay. And it was just one of those subliminal things. I don't know how to explain it. But literally, the day came of this bridal shower, I just went right in the flow. I totally had forgotten. I was totally surprised. I just put it on the back burner or whatever, and it never even simmered. I just went, oh yeah, this is so great. And then I remembered after that going, that's right, I remember seeing it on that calendar. So I like surprises in life. I just do. And so allow yourself, if you're one of the ones like me on a cohort, to let yourself be available to the surprises of spirit. Should this or something better? Ernest gives the definition of a demonstration, and that's what we're talking about here, is an answered prayer is a demonstration. When you do all these steps, what happens? You get the answer. So his definition of a demonstration is, through the mental and spiritual activity of thought directed toward a definite end, we bring about a greater good, a more abundant life, a better condition than existed before. This is called a demonstration. We can demonstrate at the level of our own ability to know. The treatment which leads to the demonstration is not for the purpose of making something happen, but is to provide an avenue within ourselves through which things may happen. Spiritual demonstration is manifestation of reality. That's Ernest Holmes. He gets a little wordy. But what he's saying here is that we are speaking our word, but we're opening ourselves up to this greater demonstration, to this wonderful essence and energy that is everywhere present, ready and willing to do our bidding, to do our calling. So we are practically applying the principles, the teachings, the laws that Jesus taught us time and time and time again. We can go back to the basics all we want. It is done unto you as you believe. The kingdom of heaven is within you. As you give, so you receive. They are so basic. They're not hard to remember. They're not hard to recognize what they're saying. But we need to remember that in order to grow, in order to expand our awareness of this infinite being that we are, that we need to stop and go within. Allow ourselves that time of reflection, that time of stillness, that time of listening deeply to what it is that Spirit is longing to do through us, and so that we can be used by Spirit. We want to know that this life is infinite, it is unending, that the seeds we are planting today will sprout and grow tomorrow, whether it be in this existence or in another. That it is all God, that it is all good. The kingdom has already been given, and guess what? We're in it. It's time to party. It's time to accept our good and be happy and joyous in it. This is the day the Lord has made. I shall rejoice and be glad in it. So I want you to accept that, knowing that you, each of us, really, are a unique expression of this one, that we can only do it our way. And that is good. And that is very good. So go in peace, go in truth, go in love, and let it be. And so it is. Namaste.